Okay, so welcome back to the fourth episode of the First and 35 podcast. Hopefully, this week we get more than 5 views. I'm here with Gus Cousins in front of me and the administrator to the left. So, not too busy of a week for the NBA, but the Raptors dropped back-to-back games at home, I think, versus Miami and Houston. I think that's right.
Yes. Depressing fashion for both.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler taking over in overtime, and I think the Rockets game, Harden, Westbrook, I think they both had pretty good games. Westbrook had a triple-double, I think.
Yeah, but they covered him pretty well. It was all the other guys, like PJ Tucker and them shooting.
Yeah.
They lose to Miami
They
week
hit,
after I
they
said.
hit a crazy amount of threes, I think, Houston, right? Like
Yes.
15,
Yeah, all the
20,
outside guys just going to the corners and shooting.
Yeah.
They lost to Miami 1 week after I said they wouldn't lose to Miami because it's just Miami. And now they're ahead of us in the standings.
And
So
speaking of Miami, Dion Waiters, $12 million did not play.
Again,
yeah, and
then he ate popcorn on the
him and
sidelines.
Justice Winslow eating popcorn on the sidelines.
That was funny to watch.
And last night...
Apparently, it's not against any team rules either. Apparently, I actually read that all teams, including the Raptors, near their locker room, they just have a big bag of popcorn, and players can just come and go and take whatever they want out of it.
That
doesn't
surprise
fit the.
me, for some reason.
I don't know. It surprised me. It seemed weird. You know, trying to be healthy and all that, and you're eating greasy food.
Yeah.
On the sidelines.
Screw nutrition.
Yeah.
Last night, Rodney Hood out for the year, torn ACL. That's a pretty big hit for Portland, who's looking outside of the playoffs right now. And
yeah, I don't know how they've been doing it all. They got who else do they have in
Lillard,
Portland?
McCollum.
They have is that the team with the guy with the hair, the little?
No,
You know,
no,
that's-
no, no, no.
who am I
That's
thinking of?
Houston. You're thinking of Capella.
Oh yes, I'm thinking of that guy.
Or
Well,
OKC. I think they have Schroeder as well.
Okay, I'm thinking of Capella.
Anyway, yeah,
they're
no.
just as forgettable.
Rodney
to me.
Hood's doesn't have a little patch. Anyway, he's been playing like 30 and a half minutes for Portland every night, so they'll have to find someone to fill that spot.
Some young guy, random young guy.
Yeah.
Call him up from the D League, throw him in, see what happens. You said they're outside of the playoffs right now, anyways.
Yeah, I think they're like,
see what happens.
They're like 3 spots out. I don't know. And the Knicks fired their coach David Fizdale after a abysmal 4-18 start.
I think the only thing worse than firing David Fizdale would probably be doing anything else. I don't think that was David Fizdale's fault at all.
I don't think it was either. A bunch of the coaches, I know Popovich and a bunch of the other guys sort of collectively said the Knicks just threw him under the bus. It's like, yeah, part of the players just need change though. The Knicks aren't good. It doesn't matter what coach they have. They're not gonna be good.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna do a good job. I mean, like David Fizdale, you joined a sinking boat.
Exactly.
And then you jump first, so it's tough. Hopefully they don't ruin RJ Barrett though.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Get him out. Get him to Team Canada as quick as you can. Get him out of New York. Don't let him sit through that. What, 4-18?
Yeah, at 4-18 start.
Who else is on that team? I couldn't tell you
Randall.
Julius. Oh right, that was their big signing after they didn't get Durant.
Yeah, he was supposed to join Kyrie, Durant. They were gonna sign Randall. They were bringing in Zion. They didn't end up getting the first pick. It's all gone really downhill.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. But it's the Knicks. They'll never be good. Owner sucks. Stadium sucks.
And they'll still be sold out every night because they.
Oh yeah, they'll overcharge everyone, and everyone will still go.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous amounts of money. It's like the Leafs of the NBA. Joke of a market.
Yeah, way too expensive. I don't know. I don't know if you saw. Moving on to the NHL. Not much basketball news this week, but I don't know if you saw Mark Borowiecki.
Yes, I did. In Vancouver.
Yeah.
A day before a game.
Just
decked the guy on
a bike.
Yeah, trying to steal some lady's bag with passports in it.
The funniest part of it might have been, I don't know if you saw his interview.
I did, yeah.
At the stadium before the game. It was hilarious.
Boro Cop.
Yeah.
It's a good nickname, eh?
It is.
Nobody thought of that before. Yeah, that was that's weird. I guess it's the same chance that literally any other person has just to be there in that situation, but the fact that it's Mark Borowiecki with no teeth doing it. Spitting all over the place, probably.
No one else would have done that except for him.
Apparently, the guy was it was a hiking backpack. Like he was trudging along on a bike.
I know.
Like if you're gonna steal something, maybe don't steal a big hiking backpack. that's really easily
and ripping it
traced.
through a car window. With
that was a poor decision.
Is just
a lot of poor decisions going on there. That's about the only good thing that's happened to Ottawa. They're actually fighting. I didn't know that. They're a really bad team, but they were doing decently. I mean, they're obviously not going to make the playoffs or even come close. But things like that, you know?
Yeah, and Minnesota, too.
Yeah.
Minnesota's been on a tear. They're above 500 now. And
yeah, they're on a 6-game win streak, I believe.
Yeah.
Borowiecki and Pajot scoring all those goals. 1-2 in the storylines for Ottawa this year.
Yeah, Pajot has been pretty...
And Nielsen, I guess.
Really
Nielsen, too, because he's done well. He overtook Anderson for the first start, so...
Yeah.
First spot. So, yeah, but Ottawa... Yeah.
Moving on to the whole Mike Babcock.
All of that.
It's a mess.
Yeah. Chelios really and Franzen.
Yeah, the whole Franzen thing. I didn't really think of that. I mean, Franzen was sort of one of those quiet dudes who was just around.
For some reason, I remember him as like this big penalty guy, and then I looked up his stats and he wasn't. So I guess I don't know.
He was a pretty good player. He played on a few Sweden
he won
national teams.
He was on their 06
on their cup team,
Stanley Cup team. 06 or 08, I think it was 06.
Yeah,
he was around, and then Chelios was there too for a bit longer. But yeah, that's so
moral
weird.
Scene, just
so weird.
Good coach, awful person. Everyone's sort of saying the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird story because so many guys are saying stuff from a variety of teams and
one
leagues.
Thing spiraled to everyone just talking.
The worst I have ever met, says Johan Franzen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll believe him because everyone else is saying stuff too.
He was saying like mental health stuff as well. Like he was waking up in the middle of the night, night terrors and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that was bad.
Awful.
I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, there's no way you should be playing the game you love and you
shouldn't be sitting on a bench and worrying about this asshole behind you yelling in your ear and kicking you on the bench.
I mean, it's easy to say just go out and play and enjoy yourself, but they get to you. So.
It's also notable that all these guys have said he's a really good coach, and this is Johan Franzen's quote: "As a coach, he's extremely meticulous and well prepared. He's very good at putting a team together and getting everyone to buy into it. That's his strong side. But then he's a terrible person, the worst I have ever met. He's a bully who is attacking people, could be a cleaner at the arena in Detroit or anybody. He would lay into people without any reason." So that's that's a backhanded something.
Yeah.
Because you start off nice saying he's a great coach, but he's a complete douchebag. So
not even a compliment, really, because
nobody really cares if you're a great coach if you're a complete piece of crap, right?
I mean, no one's taking his accomplishments away from him. He's won a lot of things. He didn't do that well with the Leafs. I mean, obviously he didn't get past the first round, but
no, but the World Juniors, Team Canada, the Detroit Red Wings,
had success, and you can't argue that. And won cups with Detroit, and he's gonna be behind. He's gonna coach again.
Oh, for sure.
It's Mike Babcock.
Probably Seattle.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised.
Start off your franchise by hiring a guy everyone hates. See how that works. Hey, it might work. New faces and all that. Speaking of Detroit, they traded for goalie Eric Comrie from the Coyotes for a Finnish defenseman, Vili Sarihavi. Sarihavi's in the minors still. Eric Comrie.
Yeah, I think Eric Comrie's just support.
Well, he's there because Jimmy Howard's on the injured reserve, so him and he's going to get some playing time with Jonathan Bernier. Yeah. But, he was the guy I thought the Leafs should go after. I mentioned a couple podcasts ago. I thought maybe...
The Leafs should go after literally anyone. They need help.
But, I mean, to be fair, Eric Comrie, every time he's played, he's gotten shelled in the NHL. But then he's done well in the AHL, so I don't really know what to make of it. But that was a really small trade.
Like Garrett Sparks.
Oh, yeah. Remember that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Leafs did something that no one has really done in a long time. They started a goalie in back-to-back games, and it was the same goalie, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Surprise. I said it wouldn't work.
He played well in both games. I mean, it didn't work, but I thought he was going to look tired coming out against Colorado, and I thought he was going to be crap, and I thought...
Don't ever do it again.
He faced tons of shots and all that. I mean, he faced a lot of shots, but he looked...
Oh, yeah, he looked
himself.
Yeah, he looked fine, but still... Don't ever do it again because you got 0 points out of the 4 that you could possibly get.
Games.
So,
or in two games. 0 points out of 4.
Yeah, so that was weird. And then I don't know when the next time they're going to play Hutchinson is because they have not a lot of back-to-backs coming up.
Yeah,
so
I don't think they're playing Hutchinson.
Hopefully they just roll with Anderson. I'm fine with rolling with the goalie, but Like I said, if you have a backup goalie, you got to use him at some point.
Yeah.
But what do I really care?
And they're in St. Louis tonight. Anderson will have the start.
That'll be a good game with Bennington, assuming they start Bennington. I can imagine they probably would.
They will. They didn't play yesterday.
Some other Leaf stuff. Andreas Johnsson goes in the long-term injury reserve, which is actually kind of... It's never a good thing when a player gets injured, but it does help their salary cap because now he's off the books for 3 weeks or 10 games or whatever it is.
Marincin, Patan, and Aberg are called up. So
Pontus Aberg, your new first-line winger.
This is his
chance. Nylander and Matthews.
This is his chance.
I know he did good for the Marlies, but come on.
Yeah, he had 24 points in 22 games with the Marlies with 10 goals.
Yeah, he's done well, but...
He's done well,
first line?
I mean, I don't... Who else did you play there?
Kapanen.
I don't know. Kapanen's looked really good on his line with Kerfoot.
Engvall?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Engvall.
Engvall looked good in his stretch.
Engvall's looked good doing everything, killing penalties.
Yeah, they've put him in a weird kind of situation, bringing him up right away and throwing him into the fire. But yeah, he's done well.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're going to call someone up, you should give him a chance. And I mean, after 2 games, if he doesn't do anything with Matthews and Nylander, I don't think he's going to be doing anything with anyone.
Yeah.
So that's that. This Nikita Zaitsev thing.
Yeah. So
weird.
There were allegations. I mean, Zaitsev's been away from hockey for a while. He's played this year, but he's been away from game action for a while. And there were reports coming out that maybe he kidnapped his own kids.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Everyone's been denying it. His agent, the team, himself. I mean, why would you admit it, right? But I don't know how.
I don't know Nikita Zaitsev, but I don't think that's something he would do.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, kidnapping your own kids, you're, like, divorced from your wife and you steal your kids back or something? I don't even know
well, it's a custody battle, and it's happening in Russia, and nobody really knows what's going on because it's in Russia. But still, I don't think he would threaten his whole life by stealing his kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's in a bad situation. Why would he, like...
No, he's overpaid as it is. He's doing just fine on his own.
Yeah.
But I'm sure more info will come out in the days coming.
Radulov, a healthy scratch for the Stars in the
that.
Stars win in overtime versus Winnipeg.
That was good. They were on the Stars were on like a 3 or 4 game losing streak before that. 3 games, I think, and they had just lost to Winnipeg 2 days before, so that was good. He has the second most penalties in the whole league, behind some guy in Vancouver whose name I can't remember. But
I don't know. It's good for his head, just to realize that. Yeah, but just because he's a top player, he can't just skate around, doing whatever the hell he wants.
As a player, though, who gets benched, you hate to see it when your coach is actually right. Because then
your team goes out and wins, and it's like a we don't need you kind of like
moment.
Shot.
Yeah. But hopefully he gets his head back in it. And
it's Radulov. He's good. He'll play. He'll be there. He's gonna finish. He's a consistent player. Points.
Yeah, he'll get there, fine. But kick him in the ass. Like I like it.
Kick in the ass.
Not a whole lot else going on in the NHL.
Yeah, not a whole lot else.
So I think that's about it for that.
The Coyotes got shut out in Pittsburgh last night.
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
Return.
Yeah, nice video tribute. They gave him a standing ovation and all that. Phil the Thrill.
Yeah, he acknowledged the crowd. It was good. It was fine. He won 2 Stanley Cups there. What's he gonna do?
Yeah. Who won that game?
Fine.
Did you say?
Pittsburgh shut them out. Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, Tristan Jarry's on such a roll. He's had so many shutouts recently. It's insane.
It's a feel good moment for Pittsburgh after letting Fleury go, thinking Murray was.
Yeah, now they finally
option.
have a legitimate backup. Yeah. Or a tandem, anyways, between him and Matt Murray. So that'll be good. I think that's about it for that.
Yeah. Not much else happening.
The majority of this podcast will probably be baseball related, so we're gonna run through the NFL and then something else, and then we'll spend a crap load of time talking about baseball stuff. So getting to that. NFL, the Jaguars benched Nick Foles. Gardner Minshew is back in at quarterback, apparently for the rest of the season.
1 week or 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
1 full game of Nick Foles, and the week before that, he played half. He looked terrible, and then they started Gardner Minshew for the second half. I like that. He's overpaid. Nick Foles is overpaid as it is, getting an $88 million contract. Sucked. He was a backup quarterback all his life. Congrats, you won a Super Bowl. You're still really bad in the grand scheme of things. And Gardner Minshew's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and playing better right now. So.
Yeah. The Dolphins signed safety Eric Rowe to a 3-year, $18 million deal with $7 million guaranteed. Ever since they moved him to safety from being a cornerback, he's looked really good. He shut down some guys like Kittle and Zach Ertz and those guys.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz last week, so he's looked really good, and with only $7 million guaranteed, it'll probably be a good contract.
And the Dolphins beat the Eagles.
On a roll. That might have single-handedly, well, I would have said it ended the Eagles' chance at the playoffs, but then the Cowboys went out and lost again. And now
whoever's going to, what is that, the NFC North? Whoever wins, that's going to win with a losing record or something.
Somebody can go 7-9 and make the division.
Yeah.
You win the division, and then they get crazy. A home playoff game, and then San Francisco 49ers are going to come in here.
An away game, it's ridiculous.
San Francisco could end like some ridiculous record, like 10 or more wins now.
They could finish 14-2.
14-2, and then go play an away game in Dallas, and then Dallas might actually squeak it out, a win somehow, and Jason Garrett might keep his job. Like, it's such a messed up situation.
It really is.
And the NFL really needs to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like the Dolphins, I looked at this, the Dolphins could finish their season 7-9 now. And to have the Dolphins finish 7-9 if they win the next however many games they have left.
3-9 right now?
Yeah, so 4 more weeks. If they win the next, the rest of their games, obviously they wouldn't make the playoffs because of the Bills and the Patriots. But then you have teams like the Eagles who might make it at 7-9, and that's a joke.
Yeah, and
the whole division's a joke. The Redskins can still win the division. Statistically, they can still do it. It's such an awful division. The Eagles lost to the Dolphins. The Bengals and Redskins also won, surprisingly. It's a week that'll never happen again. The Patriots released their kicker, Kai Forbath, after last week. Currently, and it's Saturday, they still don't have a kicker. They're likely to re-sign Nick Folk, but last week he had an appendectomy, so they got Forbath in, but they don't actually have a kicker on their roster right now.
Is Gostkowski coming back this year? Or
I don't know. I haven't checked in on that.
Yeah,
I know he's still out, like, a little ways away at least. But yeah, so they'll probably re-sign Nick Folk for at least this week, and then they'll probably do another switch, bring back Kai Forbath.
Go in and out.
Yeah. Some games coming up this week that are kind of relevant. The 49ers are at the Saints. That'll be a good game because the 49ers are always interesting.
Yeah, the Saints already clinched their division, I think.
I believe so, yeah. The Ravens play the Bills. It'll be Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. That'll be a good game just because there are 2 athletic quarterbacks running all around the field. The Chiefs and the Patriots at 4. That'll be a good game because the Patriots, they lost last week. It's very rare to see them lose 2 in a row, but it's the Chiefs and it's Mahomes, so they might do it.
They might do it.
And then the late game, Seahawks versus the Rams.
The Rams fighting for their lives, basically.
Playoff lives, yeah. Jared Goff is either really good or really terrible. And against the Seahawks defense with Jadeveon Clowney, I don't think he'll be that good. I think they'll probably shut him down. Seattle probably win.
Russell Wilson's no slump either.
No, he's another guy that'll run around the field and he can throw really well. So it'll be an interesting game because the Rams have guys like Cooper Kupp, etc., and Robert Woods, but I don't know. They've been on and off this year, and I think the Rams
really on and off.
The Rams are just like a little bit better version of the Eagles this year, just because they have a good team.
They have a good team.
Statistically, they just haven't gotten it together. Yeah. And then all the other games are pretty much should be blowouts or irrelevant games. The F1 season came to an end last weekend with Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes winning the whole thing. He also won the last Grand Prix, which was in Abu Dhabi, which was the last of the year. The only other piece of news coming out of that was next year another Canadian will be joining Williams along with Lance Stroll, who had an awful season. I don't know. He got barely any points. He didn't even come close to winning anything. But this new guy, Nicholas Latifi out of Quebec, he's a young guy, so hopefully he'll come in on that big stage. He was really good in F2, and that's why he's getting the bump up. So hopefully him and Stroll actually come together and do something next year. With that all behind us now, we're going to move on to baseball, which will, as I said, take up the rest of this podcast most likely.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of things happening because it's free agency and all that.
Winter meetings
coming up soon. The Rule 5 draft is next weekend. Guys are signing. Guys are getting waived. Trades are happening that are actually relevant.
The roster size went up, right? From 25 to 26?
Yeah, so next year it'll be the first year with the 26-man roster, which is why a lot of these things are happening. So if anything,
that adds one
it'll add another spot.
That's 30 new things.
There'll be a lot of new faces in the MLB. A lot of them will probably be used for an extra bullpen arm, but it'll be a weird situation, team-to-team basis. Starting off from the top, the Angels got Dylan Bundy from the Orioles for minor leaguers Isaac Matten, Kyle Bradish, Zach Peak, and Kyle Brnovich.
I like that deal.
I like that deal for both teams. I mean, the Orioles getting rid of anybody they can is a good decision.
Exactly.
And the Angels
getting
Dylan Bundy.
You never know what prospects they're getting. One might...
Exactly. Isaac Mattson is the top guy in that deal, and he was in AAA last year for the Angels, and he looked good. So he'll probably be up for the Orioles for at least a shot next year, just to see what he's got.
The Orioles will be giving anyone that got a shot, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Dylan Bundy will probably slot into, like, 3-4 in the rotation.
3-4 in the rotation, assuming they sign somebody else big. In LA, Dylan Bundy's an first round pick. Yeah. He has the stuff. He's never really worked out.
He's shown signs of greatness.
Yeah, the Orioles...
Maybe not greatness, but...
Good. He was capability. Yeah, capability at certain times. The Orioles held on to him for quite a while, seeing if he worked out. He just never did. But to be fair to him, the Orioles are trash, and he didn't have any help anyways.
To be fair to him, I think I was looking at it. He had a winning 7-4 record with the Orioles, which is like, I mean, his ERA wasn't great. It was like,
and wins are becoming more and more of a meaningless stat. But with the Orioles,
but when you look at it, it's the Orioles, and getting a win is. You got to be decent.
Yes, for the Orioles, you can go 7 innings and allow 1 run, and there's no guarantee you end up winning that game compared to other teams.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's a good move for the Angels. The Rays and the Padres made a really big one.
That was the big one of the week.
That was the big splash, trade-wise anyways. So the Rays get Hunter Renfroe, a home run hitting machine, but he can't hit for average.
Yeah.
And the number 72 prospect in all of baseball, Xavier Edwards, who played in low A and high A ball last year, in exchange for Tommy Pham and Jake Cronenworth, who was the Rays' number 17 prospect. That whole trade, I think my favorite guy is Jake Cronenworth because he hit 330, and then he also threw 7 1/3 shutout innings in AAA last year.
Yeah, that's
didn't allow one earned run.
We'll see if both sides of his game pan out, but it's...
Yeah, well, he's like a perfect example of a 26th guy to add to a roster because he was in AAA, he succeeded. Yeah. Xavier Edwards is so far away. He's a great prospect. But he'll be far from it.
You never really know.
Yeah, Renfroe will be in a great hitter's ballpark now in Tampa Bay.
Do you think they'll throw Renfroe in the outfield or DH him?
I think they'll throw Renfroe in the outfield because I think G-Man Choi will probably be still the DH, and then they'll probably have somebody else to play first base.
Yeah, they still have. Do they still have Yandy Diaz?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And Diaz jumps from third to first all the time, so it'll be a rotating. I mean, he played. Obviously, Hunter Renfroe played a decent enough outfield in San Diego, but it's still San Diego. But yeah, Pham's going one way. That's the big piece of the deal, I would say.
Yeah, I would say
because he's had such a good last couple seasons.
I think Pham's gonna fit in well in San Diego.
Oh, I think San Diego is making a really good team. Like with not superstar signings. I mean, obviously Machado last year, and they had Hosmer before that. Yeah. But I think the guys like this, like Tommy Pham, it's a really, really nice addition. And as I said, I think Cronenworth could probably be a good piece as the 26th guy because he can jump around from the infield to the outfield.
And it doesn't mean he comes in with high expectations, right? I mean, they're bringing in
nobody as the 26th man has high expectations. Exactly. It's you get by. Exactly. And he's looked like he can get by or at least hit in the minors. The Brewers got their new catcher to replace Yasmani Grandal. They got Omar Narvaez from the Mariners in exchange for Adam Hill, minor league right-handed pitcher, and a competitive balance round B pick. Narvaez hit 22 home runs last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's
mid-50s RBIs. It's an
adequate
not
amazing
replacement.
Catchers out in the market, but I think replacing Grandal with Narvaez
is a very
close to one of the best options.
Yes, he's a very good offensive player. His defense is one of the worst in the league, so that's the only thing. You're losing Grandal, who's one of the best, and replacing him with Narvaez, who's one of the worst. But I think that'll be good. The Brewers are looking to stay in playoff contention for years to come, and Narvaez is still relatively young compared to Grandal anyways.
I think it's a good move.
I think that's a good move. The Mets got their center fielder that they apparently wanted, Jake Marisnick from the Astros, in exchange for 2 minor leaguers, Kennedy Corona and Blake Taylor, both pitchers. They're going to be their starting center fielder for next year at least. He was an ex-Blue Jays prospect many years ago, who got traded to the Astros.
And he did
in the original
the
Jay
Astros.
Happ deal.
I mean,
he had a good he had a good run.
He was a backup fourth outfielder guy, but
but when he got the chance, he did pretty
defense.
Well. Good defender. He's super fast, and he can hit decently. He was the guy last year who ran over Jonathan Lucroy. That was his moment of shining last year. But yeah, he should be good along with Conforto and Nimmo and whoever else if Cespedes comes back.
Yeah, I think they might. They still have Lagares.
I believe they did tender him. I think they did tender him a contract. So he'll be all these guys around.
Right.
Yeah, he'll have his playing time, and it's a decent option.
And if Cespedes doesn't come back, you can always throw Jeff McNeil in the outfield.
Exactly. He's the super utility guy of the future.
Play
jumping
third,
around
second,
everywhere.
first, outfield.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
The Marlins get Jonathan Villar from the Orioles, who the Orioles DFA'd originally for a left-handed pitcher in the minors named Easton Lucas.
Just a veteran bat for the Marlins.
Yes, it's a good guy to have. Another utility type guy.
He'll probably drive in like 70 runs, hit second or third in the order, and
he'll probably hit 3 or 4 in the order with that team, unless they find somebody else. I mean, they picked up Jesus Aguilar, who we'll get to later, but he's like a 3-4 of VR and Aguilar in that ballpark.
Brian Anderson like second.
Brian Anderson, Garrett Cooper, guys like that. It's not a bad team. Well, it is a bad team, but it's not a bad 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes. Not as bad as Detroit, Baltimore, etc.
Yeah, so the Orioles get rid of another guy in VR. The Athletics get Austin Allen and a player to be named later from the Padres for Jurickson Profar. Profar, after like 4 years, every year people trying to trade him, he now gets traded again from Oakland.
Yeah.
Austin Allen's one of the Padres' top prospects. He's a catcher. He'll join up in Oakland as one of their catchers of the future. They have a good young tandem there. Both guys that were just coming up as prospects, and now they'll have a chance to, similar to Danny Jansen and
Reese
McGuire, that guy. It's a good decision for the Athletics.
I think it's not bad for the Padres either. I mean, they had like Kinsler at second base last year, I think.
Exactly.
And
he's still there. He'll get playing time, but he's
Profar
past his prime. Yeah. Profar, everyone's always said he looks like he can hit, and he occasionally does, but he doesn't do it consistently. But he's another guy, not to the level of Tommy Pham, obviously.
Yeah, but he's another
a nice
sort
addition.
of underrated guy who will do better than I think people.
Especially presume. In the NL now, because you have a chance to pinch hit and pinch run so much more, and he's a burner too. So it's all around a good deal for both teams, I think. The Athletics and the Padres are both looking to try and get back to the playoffs. Yeah. Athletics again, and the Padres just for the first time in a while, and I think it'll benefit them
doable.
both.
I don't know if the Padres will get past the Dodgers yet, but
and the D-backs and it's a good division.
It's a good division, but I think if they get in, it'll be a wild card.
Oh, for sure. The Indians get Sandy Leon, who was the longtime Red Sox catcher, for a super young A-ball pitcher named Adenis Bautista. Sandy Leon immediately slots in Cleveland. He'll get a lot of playing time. I don't know a lot about Adenis Bautista, but he's so far away anyways, it doesn't really matter.
I don't know. Sandy Leon and Roberto Perez isn't.
No, it's not a bad tandem. Yes, they're not the best hitters in the world, but they both handle, and that's pitching staffs well, and that's what you want out of your catchers nowadays anyways.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies sign Zach Wheeler to a 5-year, $118 million deal. I would say, probably a better deal for Wheeler than it was for the Phillies, but I mean, everyone's overpaying for
everyone's getting
so.
overpaid, right? The Phillies have money.
They got money to spend.
For them, I sort of see it as it's better to overpay a little bit for Wheeler than to do nothing.
Exactly, yeah. And now the rotation have guys like, well, obviously Wheeler, who they just signed, and Aaron Nolan, Jake Arrieta, if he can get it back together, and then younger guys at the back end like Eflin and Velasquez and Pivetta.
Eflin showed signs of being very good last year.
Yeah, so I think that'll be. I mean, obviously they're trying to get to the playoffs like everyone is, but I think that's going to be. They'll give the Braves, I think, a bit of a shot for their money. I don't think they'll meet the Braves. If you think about it,
the Phillies were like less than 10 wins, I want to say, out of a playoff spot last year, and you gotta think that Wheeler can get them.
Oh, exactly. And Harper and all these guys, I think they'll have a good team, and I think they'll there's a lot of good teams in the NL, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, there is.
And then following that up, the Braves signed Cole Hamels to a 1-year deal worth $18 million.
I love that deal.
That's
I love it.
Probably the biggest overpayment out of all these guys, I think.
Yeah, but
you want him for 1 year, I get it.
He's consistent. He's been there. He's gonna get them to another, I think, NL East title.
He's like 36.
But his first half numbers last year were so good. He got injured, so he came back a little bit slower. But even if he puts up like a mix between his first half and second half numbers from last year, he's an upgrade to
I suppose.
rotation.
$18 million just feels a lot. And then he's going to slot in around the 3-4 spot with Soroka and Fultonavich at the top, presumably, and then Max Fried and Sean Newcomb near the end. I mean, he's a lefty guy. But
I wouldn't be surprised if they signed another starter and used Fried as sort of the longer man.
No, if they bump Fried because he did very well there, if they sign someone like Tanner Rourke or someone like that, Wade Miley even as another lefty option, just to slot him in there. But it's another Alex Anthopoulos going off the rails again, signing all these guys. This must be like the eighth guy he's signed or seventh guy he's signed in this free agency. Sticking with pitching, the Rangers, 1 week after signing Kyle Gibson, followed up with signing Jordan Lyles to a 2-year, $16 million deal. That's now, as I mentioned to you off air, probably one of the best rotations I think it can be in the major leagues.
Yeah, I don't know if it will be, but I think it has the potential to be. If Minor and Lynn produce the way they did last year.
And Gibson comes back, and Lyles pitches like he did with the Brewers in the part of the second half last year when he had like a 2.45 ERA and went 7-1 with them. If he can keep that going.
Yeah, everyone has a fifth guy who's like
Colby Allard, who is
there.
An ex-Braves top guy who they claimed in the Rule 5 draft last year. I think he'll probably slot in there unless they sign someone else and they use Allard as a long man. But I think they like Allard because he's another hard-throwing lefty. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be a good rotation. The Twins signed Michael Pineda to a 2-year, $20 million deal. That's just interesting because he still spent 39 games. Yeah. The Twins get another pitcher, though, and I think Pineda did relatively well for them last year, and they like him. So I think he does well.
He'll be a guy. He'll be around. He'll be fine.
He'll be around. He was a guy I thought the Jays might want to go after, who I liked.
Yeah.
But obviously that didn't happen.
At this point, the Jays should go after anyone.
Yeah, whoever's left. Whoever's left.
Each signing's just ticking down at the Jays' chances at doing anything.
Yeah, the Giants sign Tyler Anderson, who was an ex-Colorado starting pitcher and lefty, 1 year, $1.78 million. He got non-tendered, let go, and the Giants scooped him up. He's a decent lefty option. The Giants aren't going anywhere, but similar to the Jays, they need pitching, and they're actually getting it in lefty and Tyler Anderson. The Athletics signed Jake Diekman to a 2-year, $7.5 million deal plus a club option for a third year.
I think that's a pretty good deal.
I think that's a pretty good deal too.
Cheap and
he's a lefty.
Diekman's getting kind of old, but he's a lefty and he'll get you outs.
Yeah, he did struggle a little bit last year, bouncing from the Diamondbacks, who he originally signed with, and getting traded line to the Oakland A's. But obviously the A's like him, and he did well in Texas before, so he's the potential to do well. And he's another guy, you're signing him super cheap over 2 years.
It's a super low risk signing.
It's a primo Oakland A's discount signing, and he might go out and pitch to like a 2 ERA now because guys do that in Oakland for whatever reason. The Cubs sign Danny Winkler to a 1-year MLB deal. The rest of the contract hasn't been put out in the public yet. He was an ex-top prospect on the Braves. Many years ago, in one of his first games, he blew out his arm, and it was a bad scene, and he's bounced around between the Reds, the Braves, obviously, because he was there, and now he's going to Chicago, and it is an MLB deal, so he'll get a shot in the bullpen. He might be their version of a 26th man. He used to throw hard. Arm injuries have kind of derailed that a little bit, but he's another solid guy. He put up decent numbers the last 2 times he was in the majors, so hopefully they can find a gem there. The Mets signed Brad Brock to a 1-year, $850K deal, but he'll end up making more than that next year, about 1.4.
Yeah, he's owed money by Atlanta.
Yes, when Atlanta got rid of him, and in a corresponding move, they DFA'd Chris Flexen to have roster room to add Brock. Brock was really good on the Orioles a couple years ago. He hasn't been bad by any stretch. He hasn't been
awful, yeah.
No, but he wasn't as good in his Orioles days when it was him and Zach Britton teaming up to end games.
Yeah, that was insane.
That was insane. But hopefully the Mets again find someone. This time it's relatively cheap, less than $1 million on their salary anyways. But
it probably can't get worse than bringing Edwin Diaz last year. They just need guys at the end of games to get outs.
No, and this is the exact opposite of overpaying for someone like Juris Famia, who they did years prior, and now they're trying to move his contract, and I don't think they'll be able to do that. But it's a decent bullpen, looking at it, names anyways. If Diaz goes back to what he can do and has been.
Like what he did 2 seasons
ago in Seattle, that'll be a good bullpen for the Mets. The Reds signed Mike Moustakas to a 4-year, $64 million deal, and their corresponding move is non-tendering Jose Peraza to have room on the roster. Moustakas is slot in at second base, probably.
I don't think they're moving Suarez, so...
No, they're not moving Suarez. And Galvis will probably be at short, Senzel will be in the outfield, and Votto's staying at first because...
And Iglesias may play like a few games here and there.
Yeah.
When Galvis isn't playing.
I believe Iglesias got non-tendered, too.
Did he?
I believe so. That's... a bit of an overpayment again, but Moustakas hits a lot of home runs. Cincinnati is well known to be a hitter's ballpark. A lot of guys hit home runs. They're
a decent year back from Votto, and they're
and they're pitching.
Solid team. They have a very
great
good rotation.
They can fight for a second wildcard spot or even the first one. But as I said, plenty of good teams in the NL. So we'll see.
Fight for a central title. I mean, I don't really know how good the Cubs are going to be.
Or the Brewers.
The Brewers pitching is
weird.
Subpar.
They got it. I don't even know
weird.
what to say about that. I would have to wait and see a little bit because they can still sign guys too, right? They're in the Jays boat, except they're trying to contend because they have guys like Yelich on there, and they got to win now. So that'll be interesting to watch. And Moustakas is a lefty, and just like Adam Dunn, lefty hitters have always done really well in Cincinnati. Yep. So I expect him to have a good at least couple of years. But it's finally the contract that he wanted because he was holding out the last couple of years, signing 1 year ARB deals mostly. And now he finally gets a longer-term contract. The Nationals signed Howie Kendrick to a 1 year, $6.25 million deal. He was their World Series and playoff hero. That's a good deal, I think, for both sides. Kendrick's old, but
I think it's just showing, like,
keeps hitting.
Even if he doesn't have a great season, they're just showing, like, respect to him and what he did last year for them.
And he hit above 300 for the most part.
He wanted to come back.
Yeah.
So you might as well bring him back.
Yeah, it was a good move by both sides. The White Sox signed James McCann to a 1 year, $5.5 million deal. That's pretty irrelevant because they're the White Sox and James McCann isn't a star catcher. The Twins signed Alex Avila as their backup catcher for $4.25 million over 1 year.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play that much.
I don't think he'll play that much, but again, Jason Castro, he was on the Twins last year, right? They had a weird, because Astudillo came in, hit a bit, Castro hit a bit.
Mitch
and
Garver, I think.
Garver, that's what I was thinking of. Garver will be the main guy, yeah.
Garver.
And they've no need for Jason Castro. So yeah, I guess Avila does fit in. The Brewers signed Alex Dickerson, Wandy Peralta to 1 year deals, and then they signed Justin Grimm to a minor league deal, hoping he can bounce back because he was good.
He was good with the Cubs.
He was good with the Cubs a bunch of years ago, but he's an older guy too. The Cubs signed Jarrell Cotton, who they had previously traded from Oakland to a 1 year, $640K deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
And a bunch of minor league signings that I'll just run through quickly. The Dodgers, probably the most interesting one in my opinion. The Dodgers signed Casey Crosby, who's a lefty pitcher. He pitched last in the majors in 2012 with the Detroit Tigers. He didn't do very well. He left professional baseball for the most part, if you want to call it that. Went to indie ball and got his fastball up. He now throws like 100. He's got his velo up, and he had a couple really good seasons with the Lancaster Barnstormers, I believe, of the Atlantic League. And that'll be an interesting signing. It's an MILB deal, minor league deal, but he's another guy, right? You take a shot on him. He's 32. He's getting up there in age, but he's a lefty, and he throws hard. So take a shot. The Indians signed James Hoyt, who they had DFA'd previously. The Padres signed Miguel Diaz, who they again previously DFA'd. The Rangers signed Nick Schufo, who was an ex-top Rays prospect, but he bounced around between the Rays and Cincinnati, never really found his feet. They brought back Wei-Shi Wang, who again they DFA'd to make room for guys like Kyle Gibson earlier. The White Sox re-signed Caleb Frere, who's a minor league lefty. He actually was on my list of Jays guys I thought they should go after before he re-signed with the White Sox, and Ryan Burr. The Red Sox get Josh Osich and Marco Hernandez, who's infamous in Boston for playing like every position last year, aside from catcher and pitcher, I believe. But he never really hit too much. The Mets signed Jarrett Parker, another outfield option, to a minor league deal, and Max Moroff, who was an iffy guy in Pittsburgh a couple years ago, but they had to let him go because he just didn't hit enough. The Orioles signed Dilson Herrera, who is an ex-Met. He'll be to a minor league deal, but he'll definitely be up because the Orioles have nobody, and he'll probably fill the shoes of like a VR-type guy playing a lot of second base unless they find someone else. The Indians signed Bo Taylor, which is only interesting because the Jays got him, picked him up and dropped him 4 times last year off of Oakland, and that was a joke, and then he played 1 game.
He played 2 games in the majors.
And then let him go. He won't get much of a shot in Cleveland, I don't think, unless one of their catchers goes down, like Sandy Leon, for example. A bunch of guys, ex-Major League guys, go to Japan. Taylor Scott, who was a lefty for Baltimore, he went to Hiroshima for $700K for 1 year. Thiago Vieira, who... he was an interesting guy because the White Sox signed him as an international prospect. He's still relatively young. He throws super hard. He walks so many people. He had a 9.8 walks per 9 innings.
That's a theme with hard throwers.
Yes, exactly. You got to have control. He didn't. He's going to Yomiuri on a 1 year deal. Jay Jackson, who pitched in Korea, was re-signed by Milwaukee last year. He had a decent year. He's another lefty. He signed with the Marines in Japan for another 1 year deal. Christian Villanueva, who 2 years ago was the Padres' third baseman, he was similar, comparable to Hunter Renfroe in the infield because he hit a lot of home runs, but he struck out a lot, and he had a low batting average. So he's going back to the Nip and Ham Fighters. It's going to be his second year in Japan. He's still relatively young. He's 26, 27. I can't imagine that he'll be away from the MLB too much longer because he's had success over there.
These guys take like a break. Like they take 1 year off, go to Japan, come back, and they're better.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Corey Spangenberg, who was an ex-Milwaukee guy last year, and Sean Nolan, who was an ex-Blue Jays prospect of years prior, signed with the Cebu Lions for both 1 year deals in Japan. Gabriel Yanoa, who was a Baltimore starting pitcher. He was like their third arm in the rotation last year, but he got shelled, gave up a ton of home runs. He went to Yakult in Japan on a 1 year deal. And Jared Hoying, who is an ex-Texas guy, he's now 30. He hasn't been in the majors for a long time. He's signed with the Eagles in Korea. Hoying's kind of an interesting guy. He was a top prospect at one point.
Yeah, I remember him.
And he got a cup of coffee here and there, and he never really panned out. The Rangers got a waiver claim in Jimmy Herget, so he'll probably get a chance because the Rangers don't have a ton of bullpen arms, and he's been a long man from Cincinnati in the past. They, in a corresponding move, DFA'd Jeffrey Springs, and then they non-tendered him, so he's a free agent. The Marlins DFA'd JT Riddle, who they liked a lot the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But he, as a middle infielder type, he was expected to be one of their starting shortstops over the last 2 years, and he never really panned out. So now he's a free agent. He's a young guy. He's 26, I think, 26, 27. Somebody will take a shot on him like Kansas City or Detroit. He'll be in the majors next year. The Phillies claim Trevor Kelly off of waivers from the Red Sox. Just some guy. The Marlins, as I previously mentioned, claimed Jesus Aguilar. He'll immediately become their
sign for them.
Yeah, I think he'll immediately become their four-hitter right behind Jonathan Villar or Garrett Cooper, depending how you look at it. And the White Sox claimed Tayron Guerrero, another hard-throwing guy off waivers from Miami who just walked too many people. He's pretty much the equivalent of Diego Vieira, so hopefully this guy does better in Chicago, but I guess we'll see. Kind of a weird one coming out of Washington. Coda Glover, who's only 26, he announced his retirement about a week ago. He was just riddled with injuries throughout his career.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and reading up on it because I was like, Coda Glover's not at a retirement age.
No, he had
looked back and
he didn't pitch at all last year. He was supposed to be their closer of the future because he threw super hard and he was super young and controllable. But as I said, he got off track with injuries.
And he got hurt.
Yeah, and they have guys that they can call for the minors to fill the spot, and that was his choice anyway. So we wish him the best of luck. But he's out of the league now. An absolute ton of guys got non-tendered because of the deadline. I won't go through all of them, but it's a couple notable ones. Domingo Santana from the Mariners hit a lot of home runs to start last year, then kind of leveled off. Charlie Culberson, the Dansby Swanson lookalike.
Yeah.
He's now out of Atlanta. Aaron Sanchez, who had finished the season last year off injured with the Houston Astros. He's now gone. He'll get a deal.
His whole life.
Yeah. CJ Crone, he had a lot of home runs in Minnesota. He's now gone. Trevor Hildenberger, who I think the Jays should go after just because I like his name. He's a free agent.
Awful with the Twins.
Addison Russell, the Cubs let go.
Yeah.
Weird story. He'll get picked up somewhere, whether he deserves it or not. He's 25, I think, and he was one of the back in his days on Oakland in the minors. He was one of their hotshot prospects, and he hasn't actually done poorly.
He was one of the guys was he in the John Lester deal?
I believe he was.
Because I remember Billy Beane saying like I hope this guy pans out because Oakland didn't want to trade him, but they were making a playoff run. They needed to get a guy at the deadline. They got Lester, but I think Oakland sent Russell to the Cubs in that deal, and even like Billy Beane was like, yeah, this is gonna be the guy. He's good. He played well for the Cubs in their World Series run.
Yeah, he's not a bad player, but it's just all the baggage, the media baggage that comes with it.
Yeah.
Blake Trinan, probably the most interesting one of the bunch, I would say, got non-tendered by Oakland, although they are trying to re-sign him for less. He just had a bad year last year after having an 0.78 ERA the year before.
Yeah.
They also let go Ryan Buchter, who's a lefty guy I think the Jays should have a look at. Kevin Pillar, the MVP candidate. Kevin Pillar got non-tendered.
Yeah.
He'll get picked up somewhere, although his defense is nowhere near how it used to be with the with the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays non-tendered some guys too. Luke Maley, Jason Adam, for example.
Derek Law, I think, as well.
Derek Law as well. They'll be gone. Jason Adam was an interesting one because his ARB years didn't actually add up to the amount that you needed to be non-tendered, but there was some weird minor league clause or something that I don't know too much about, and it was confusing and they let him go. Jimmy Nelson never worked out in Milwaukee. He got non-tendered.
They non-tendered Travis Shaw as well.
They non-tendered.
I mean, it surprises you until you look at his stats from last year.
Yeah, and his agent was on Twitter the other day defending him, saying he'll have a bounce back year, and I'm sure he will, but you can't keep a guy like that around.
It's hard to not bounce back from a
dreadful season like that. Yeah.
$1.64 or something like that.
They let a lot of guys go. They let Claudio, who led the league in appearances, I believe, go. Mm-hmm. Kevin Smith from the Angels was let go. The Royals let go of Jesse Hahn. And then a bunch of other offshoot random relievers here and there that'll get picked up.
I think actually one that caught my eye that I think the Jays might want to look at is Gosman.
Yeah,
the Braves let him go, and he mixed in some starts and some relief appearances, like longer.
Yeah, between Cincinnati and the Braves, he did decently. A bottom end of the rotation. Everyone's a bottom end of the rotation guy in Toronto.
You can throw into the Jays rotation and not feel too awful about it.
Yeah, even if it's a 1 year, like he would, because he's older, probably would be a 1 or 2 year guy just in the interim.
Yeah.
But he can eat innings if he doesn't get shelled, or be a long man because the Jays have no one in their pen. So yeah, I agree. That would be an interesting signing. They signed, the Blue Jays did a bunch of guys to minor league deals. Justin Miller, who's 32. Last year, he didn't do very well in 15 2/3 innings in Washington, but the year before, he did very well. He went 7-1 with a 3.61 ERA and giving up 42 hits over 52 1/3 innings. He's 32. He's a bullpen guy. I would not be surprised at all if he makes the team out of spring training just because he has major league experience. They also re-signed Felipe Almonte. He was in the Blue Jays system in 2015. Went so badly for him, he contemplated retirement, went to play indie ball here and there in Canada and the U.S. He got re-signed. He did very well in the most recent Canadian World Baseball Tournament.
Yeah, he did.
And he's Canadian, so take a shot on him, I suppose. But there's not much to look at. He's 30. In Double A and Triple A last year, or the last time he was in Double A and Triple A, he did 6.23 ERA. He went 2-4. More hits than innings pitched given up, but he was a first-round prospect. Pick in 2007, so there's something there, but he is 30. It's hard to see, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it just because the Jays have no one else.
Yeah.
Patrick Kivlehan got re-signed. I like that because I said they should have done it. He's 29, hit a ton of home runs.
Yeah, he did.
Strikes out a decent amount, but in the minors...
Not super high average, but like...
No, 255 average last year. He was in the majors very briefly with Arizona in 2018. And then with the in the minors with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Blue Jays last year. He's a good guy to have, I think, because if you don't have someone else to match Rowdy Tellez at first base and he can play first and third, injuries too, he can be called up, and he seems like a major league hitter anyways. In 2018, he actually hit 2 triples in 3 hits that he had out of 14 at-bats, 2 triples in Arizona. He was a 4th-round pick back in 2012 of the Mariners. Andy Burns, they re-signed, which also, like, he's also 29. He had a very good hitting season last year. He's another utility guy.
Yeah,
he was for the Bisons. 19 home runs, 64 RBIs. He's currently in Australia, just raking in the Aussie Baseball League. He's hitting something crazy like 432 in 9 games. Just absolutely nuts. With 3 home runs, 537 OBP, and a 1.272 OPS. He leads their league in hitting because obviously it's Australian. They have a season going on right now with the Sydney Blue Sox. But he's another guy. You can call him up. He's a Richard Urania type. And, I mean, why do we need more Richard Uranias in the world? But, I mean, he's a guy. He's a likable guy because he hasn't really had a shot in the majors yet. Urania has. And he just fills a minor league spot. They also signed to a major league deal Anthony Bass, who's 32. He had a decent year last year for the Mariners. He got paid $1.5 million. He went 2-4 in 44 games with 48 innings pitched, 30 hits last year. He was a 5th-round pick in 2008 by the Padres. These are guys, I mean, I don't like them all, but like I said however many weeks ago, you got to have signed minor league guys and hope to find gems. Guys. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot more, like Oakland went off the rails last week. They signed like 13 guys to minor league deals and invited a bunch more to spring training this week.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the worst thing you have to do is, God forbid, cut guys from spring training.
Yes.
Which you're going to do anyway.
Yes. So, oh, no, you have to release a minor league guy who didn't work out. It happens so much throughout the year. You shouldn't lose sleep over it. The Jays lost their director of amateur scouting, Steve Sanders, to go to the Pirates, along with Ben Sherrington. I'm sure they'll probably bring a couple more guys from Toronto because management is just like that. You like guys and you want them to follow you around. It's a bit of a weird blow because now they don't have a director of amateur scouting, and the Rule 5 draft is just days away.
Yeah,
so
weird.
I'm not sure who will take over in that regard. I'm assuming they'll end up picking someone in the Rule 5 draft.
They'll end up bringing in some new guy probably.
But it won't be someone that Steve Sanders likes, I guess. The Pirates might end up picking someone too, so that'll be interesting. I'm sure they'll find someone to fill that spot relatively soon. So Josh Lindblom is an ex-Major League player. He pitched from 2011-2017. He went over to Korea, pitched very, very well. He's 32. He's now coming back to free agency this year. He pitched to a 2.50 ERA with the Bears in Korea last year, and he's already had a bunch of offers for multi-year deals, similar in respect to Miles Michaelis. He's a guy that the Jays did say they have put in an offer for.
Yeah.
He's a guy I think is interesting. You just take a flyer on him anyways, and anybody coming out of Korea or Japan or Australia, I like them all.
You never really know, but you might. Some have turned out.
Yeah, and he didn't actually for a few years. He didn't struggle that much. He had a terrible 2017 with the Tigers, and that's why they let him go. Mm-hmm. But before that, he was a major league arm. He had around a 4.3 ERA in years prior. He's a doable guy, and if the Jays do get him, well, somebody will get him. He'll slot right into a starting rotation just because of how many innings he's pitched in Korea. He's just one guy along with guys like Taijuan Walker, Ryan Buchter, Casey Crosby I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And Danny Holtzen, who was an interesting guy. Not Danny Hudson, Danny Holtzen. He was a first-round pick many, many years ago by the Cubs, I want to say. He bounced around the minor leagues so much. He got drafted, I think, when he was 21 or 22. Didn't make the majors until last year with the Mariners, I believe, when he was 30. And he did decently, and I believe it was about 12 innings he pitched. And, he spent most of the year in the minor leagues. But he came up, and he didn't get shelled. He's a lefty guy who minors his whole career. And somebody gave him a chance, and last year was the Mariners. And I just think he's a free agent now because they non-tendered him. He's a lefty. Why not bring him in?
He's another guy who'll get another chance. Surely.
Yeah, and he's one in a long list of guys that I think the Jays need to take a flyer on. Like I've just been continuously saying, him, Buchter, Crosby, Taijuan Walker, this guy in Australia who I actually found when looking up stats for Andy Burns, named Thomas Dormany, in Australian Baseball League in Indie Ball last year. Pitched 105 innings. He's a lefty. He's still relatively young, I believe, mid-20s around there. In 18 games, 114 Ks in 105 innings, only gave up 5 home runs, 97 hits. He pitched to a ERA of 2.19 in Australia, and then a 2.72 ERA in Indie Ball last year. He was an ex-San Diego draft pick. Like, guys like that, I don't get why they're not signed.
Yeah,
you have guys like Gabriel Yanoa last year, who was pitching consistently in the third spot for the Orioles. Now, is Thomas Dormany going to get signed? Probably not. Will he pitch in the majors? No, he probably won't.
Yeah.
He definitely won't be like a 1 to 3 guy in the rotation, or probably a 4 or 5 either.
You just have to take shots on these guys. But
you have to find these guys. A few weeks ago, I was talking about guys coming out of Japan. There are guys everywhere. Like, I was looking for Andy Burns, and I found like 3 pitchers, 2 of which had major league experience, just cups of coffee here and there. And this guy, and I don't understand why nobody's taking a shot on him. Maybe it's because he has like a terrible personality. I don't know. Maybe he's a great guy and just no one knows about him. Or maybe there is some reason. But looking at his stats, and I know Indie Ball is Indie Ball, and I know Australia is Australia, and it's kind of weird because you either hit really well or you don't. Like, there's no in between. And apparently nobody can hit really well off this guy. But he's an interesting story, like I said. And I know you don't pay for interesting stories. You pay for guys who can play. But this guy apparently can play, and he's a lefty. Who cares if he doesn't make it past AA next year? He might. That's the shot you give him. He might do well.
You never know. You never know until you sign the guy. You can't... he might do well, but if you don't sign him, who gives a crap?
If you cut him, he goes back to Indie Ball. And I know everyone hates cutting people, relatively speaking, but take a chance on him because he's another lefty. What don't the Jays have?
Yeah, exactly. You're cutting however many guys from spring training. If you sign 3 more guys, you're cutting 3 more guys. Big whoop.
Thomas Dormany is not going to make or break your roster. He's not going to make or break another minor leaguer's chance at being signed. Nobody knows who this guy is except for guys like me who accidentally find him looking up stats for some other minor leaguer on some team in Australia. It makes no sense, but he's there. And I looked up his stats. When he got let go by the San Diego Padres, he didn't even have a terrible few seasons. I don't believe he got past Double-A there. But his low A and high A stats, yes, it's low A and high A. I get it. It's terrible competition. But even his Double-A stats, he had like a 4 ERA, I think, and lower than that, it was low 3s, high 2s. He's a lefty.
Yeah,
I'm sure something happened. I'm sure there's a reason. Maybe they liked somebody else to replace him. They thought he'd be better, and it didn't work out. But he's working out in indie ball, and he's working out in Australia. And Casey Crosby worked out in indie ball, and now he got signed by the Dodgers. I don't even care if it's the Jays who sign this guy. Somebody should sign the guy.
Yeah.
I like the Jays because they're in Toronto. But somebody should give him a shot, and I'm sure he'll return to indie ball if he's not signed, and maybe he will get a contract later on. And he's just one example. He's a name I pulled out of a hat that was on a website on Baseball Reference. So he's just a guy, but he's a guy that I think the Jays should take a shot at if they're not going to go after free agents like Hyun-Jin Ryu and Dallas Keuchel and Jordan Lyles because they can't anymore, and Ivan Nova.
Yeah. I think Ivan Nova could be an interesting one.
I think...
He's not...
Out of those four,
for the Jays.
Out of those four I just mentioned, Lyles is obviously in Texas. Shoot for two of them. I get it. Dallas Keuchel probably doesn't want to come to Canada.
Yeah, and it's not even
overpay him then.
That you don't even get the guys. Just at least make an effort.
Yes, and they're saying
an offer.
They've said they've been really aggressive to like all the free agents so far, pitching wise.
Well, not aggressive enough.
That's great. Who have you signed? Anthony Bass to a $1.5 million deal because you tendered him a contract and you picked him off waivers at the end of last year from frickin' Seattle. Like there's no.
Yeah.
He's not a Hyun-Jin Ryu. He'll probably be their fifth starter if they don't have guys like Thornton and Baraki and Kay start there. Or Bass might suck and you cut him. I don't even know how Bass managed to get a $1.5 million out of the Jays. It's such a small sum in the greater scheme of things. But he's just some guy.
Just a guy.
He had a good 1 year. He had a 3.56 ERA. Congratulations. It was Seattle. I'm all for signing him. I don't know if you sign him for a $1.5 million deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I expect the Jays to sign one.
Hope the Jays overpay for guys who have done it.
Overpay for Ivan Nova for all I care.
Yeah.
Give him a goddamn. Who was the guy that went two years and $20 million? Who was Michael Pineda? Give him a Michael Pineda contract, or pay a little less. Give him a Jordan Lyles contract. Give somebody a contract, not Anthony Bass. Well, and Anthony Bass now that he actually I guess got signed, but someone like that. There's so many guys out there. And I know free agency just started, but I'm looking through the list. And guys that are trying to contend, like the Athletics, the Phillies, the Braves, the Twins have signed a bunch of pitchers. The Mets, the Cincinnati Reds have done stuff. These guys, and the Brewers, although not in the pitching aspect, I suppose, but they've signed minor league guys. The Dodgers even, with, like I keep saying, Casey Crosby. Yes, are they all ahead of the Jays in the scheme of trying to compete for a playoff spot? Yes. Will the Jays do it next year? No, they won't.
Will the Jays do it in 2 years? Maybe even not.
But you have to have guys that give it a shot.
Yeah.
Everyone likes their young core of position players. I don't think anybody likes the bullpen, mostly because you have like 3 guys currently. And one of them won't even pitch next year for the most part because he blew his elbow out being overused. I think the
Jays' biggest problem is they have all these, I don't want to say overhyped prospects, but sons of major leaguers and people know about them and they're not going to develop as quickly as people think.
Yes,
people think,
and you have to give a winning mentality.
And hit 50 homers.
I can't speak. Winning mentality. You have to have.
I know.
Pitching wins and loses ball games. It's nice when Kevin Biggio walks every other at bat. Good for him.
Good for him. He gets to first base.
When you
his OBP goes up.
Yes. If Jason Adam last year comes into the game and blows a lead in the 7th inning, everyone's going to be wondering, why is he in the 7th inning? Why is he a late inning reliever for a bad team? Should he be a reliever for some team? Sure.
Probably.
Should he not? He shouldn't be pitching in close games like he did last year with the Jays.
He should be a blowout guy who comes in when it's
or
8-1.
Even like not even necessarily a blowout, but not when it's like a save situation. I know. Who else do you have? Okay, fine. You traded all these guys and you don't have anyone left. You don't have Phelps. You don't have Hudson from last year's team. That doesn't mean you pick up Jason Adam and shove him in as your setup man. honest to God, Thomas Dormany could probably do just as good a job setting up games in the majors as Jason Adams did last year.
A bunch of guys and give up a single.
Yes, you could probably get Jake Cronenworth. You're telling me the Jays didn't want to trade for Jake Cronenworth? I have a feeling the Jays have no idea who Jake Cronenworth is. He's probably a name in a book somewhere. I guarantee you 95% of the people in the majors don't know who Thomas Dormany is, and I bet the more of them don't know who Casey Crosby is. But somebody did. Somebody signed Crosby. The Padres traded for Cronenworth. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that they're not doing, and sometimes not doing something is just as bad as doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And who cares if you sign Nova for 18 or 16 million over 2 years, or 18 million, or 20 million? If he doesn't work out, that's nice. You have no money on the books. Sign somebody.
Yeah.
It's not exactly. Anthony Bass, or Anthony Bass and someone else. I'm sounding like I have something against Anthony Bass, and I really don't.
But he's just the guy. He's the only one they've signed.
Yes, I'm beating the dead horse, and in this case, I'm beating Anthony Bass, who doesn't deserve it. But he's the only major league guy that they've signed. They literally don't have anyone else.
I know.
They traded for Chase Anderson.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Which is good, but sign a guy.
And they're going to trade Ken Giles, and that'll be, whenever that happens, we'll have a lot to talk about. But they'll trade Ken Giles,
and they'll probably
have nobody.
They'll probably get a crappy return, too.
They'll probably, I don't even know what they'll get. But then who's in the bullpen? Off the top of your head, minus Ken Giles, who do the Jays have in their bullpen currently?
Tepera, is he still there?
Nope, he got non-tendered.
He's gone. I
can't think of anyone, can you? I can't. And I'm...
Elvis
Luciano will be in the minor leagues next year. Guaranteed. Yes, they'll find guys. Yes. Anthony Kay might be a long man. Yes, they might sign some guys. They need to sign more than some guys. They need to sign like a lot of guys because literally empty spots. They have empty spots.
Yeah.
Where the Braves are signing guys like Will Smith and they're finding guys like Luke Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't expect the Jays to sign Will Smith or find Luke Jackson. I expect them to sign or find somebody. And right now, they have not a whole... I don't even know if they have a 26-man roster.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they could scrape one together. Whether it's competitive is a different story.
Yeah, and going off topic here a little bit more before we wrap this up, they non-tendered Luke Maley. You know who the longest guy who's been in the majors for the Blue Jays is right now? Longest tendered guy, like the guy that's been for the Jays in the majors the longest. Teoscar Hernandez. Who was, what was he? He was a part of a minor league trade, right? In 2015 or 2016?
That's who they got for Liriano.
2016 or 15. That's, 3 or 4 years, including next year?
Yeah, I think it was 16.
It's nuts. So that'll be his 4th year next year. And he wasn't even in the majors for some of it because we went down to Buffalo and watched him play there.
Yeah.
Your longest tenured organizational guy is Anthony Alford, who's had 59 career at-bats in the major leagues. You want to be young, fine. Somebody deserves to stick around, don't they?
You have to support young guys.
Yeah.
Not all the teams you look at are just young guys. Think back to the Astros. They brought in Beltran, McCann. They brought in people to facilitate the young guys.
You know who the second longest tenured player in the Blue Jays organization was last year after they got rid of, or besides Anthony Alford, after they got rid of anyone beside Anthony Alford? Do you know who that was?
Smoke?
Well, excluding free agency, because they all left.
Okay.
Your boy, Matthew Phillip Dermody.
Matt Dermody.
In the minor leagues. He was your second longest tenured guy once guys like Smoke, for example. I think he actually beat out Smoke for being in the organization because Dermody was there his entire career. And Smoke wasn't. So he's beat out a lot of these guys. Yes, it's organizational guys. But come on. Yeah. Anthony Alford. Luke Maley was your longest tenured major league guy before you got rid of him. Luke Maley.
Dermody clinched the AL East.
Yes, he was there. Good for him. He's been around. Now he's a free agent, so he's gone too.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to have good guys. And I'm sure there are guys better than like Dermody, for example, even though I like the guy. But yeah, you got to sign somebody. And I can't even stress out about the Jays too much because they haven't done anything to stress me out. They haven't done anything at all. Before we wrap up here, just a few notable ones. Mike Soroka wins the Tip O'Neill Award for Major League Baseball, which is, in essence, the best Canadian player or the most valuable Canadian player.
Surprising.
Not surprising.
I mean, the good Canadians are sort of getting old.
Yeah, he was the sixth in Cy Young voting, second in for Rookie of the Year behind Peter Alonso. Anybody else, any other year, he probably would have won it.
Probably would have.
So congratulations to him. Abraham Toro won the Canadian Offensive Minor League Player of the Year with the Houston Astros. He had a couple big home runs in the majors last year.
Yeah.
That was Verlander's no-hitter too, right?
So I was at the game, actually.
He spent the majority of the year in the minors, hit everywhere he went, and then came up for a cup of coffee and did decently, and then he went back down, so congratulations to him as well. And then the last thing before we wrap up with, which is a Canadian baseball story. So there's tons of independent baseball leagues and teams around North America. One of them, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, are part of the Can-Am League, which is just central, near the border. They don't travel too far south in the U.S.
Yeah.
But their owner, Sam Katz, who owns the team, he was interested and he's pitched the idea of bringing a minor league baseball team affiliated with Major League Ball to Ottawa.
It's not a bad idea.
And I think, yes, he's talked to, I believe he also owns the Ottawa Red Blacks, which is the CFL team.
Yeah.
And he's talked to the mayor of Ottawa and he's talked to these guys. And I don't think has a chance in hell of happening.
Yeah,
but that'd be interesting.
I don't think it will happen, but I think if it did happen, it wouldn't be a failure.
No, I don't, and that's what he's saying. He believes that people would come out to the game. Oakland had... No, it wasn't Oakland. It was the Chicago White Sox, however many years ago. They had a minor league team in Calgary. And that went down the shitter real quick because people started showing up and they didn't have money to pay for the field, and that was bad. But, yeah, so it's just interesting because Sam Katz is just this really rich guy. And it's coinciding with, the Major League Baseball saying, oh, yeah, we want to cut these 42 minor league teams.
Yeah, but I mean, kudos to him, right? I mean, there's nothing bad with pitching an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if it goes through, it doesn't go through. But
you have the Toronto Blue Jays as a Major League team, and you have the Vancouver Canadians in the minor leagues on two very opposite sides of the country. And I know Ottawa's in Ontario, so it's close to us here, but I think people would go see that. Hell, Buffalo gets a ton of guys coming down from Toronto. Yeah. I think they'd rather go to Ottawa, no offense to Buffalo. You just have less chances of getting shot in the streets there, and it's Canada, and that wouldn't happen for many years, I don't think. But
yeah, it's not.
You have dumpy minor league teams. I think Ottawa couldn't be worse than, some other ones that are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just comes down to whether they want to move.
Yeah, and it all comes down to money too, and there are bigger things like this Montreal thing. There are bigger things to worry about than an Ottawa minor league team, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
So with that all said, I think that about wraps up the baseball portion
of week 4
of this podcast, which hasn't taken off the ground yet. I think I butchered that saying. Taken flight. I'm having a bad recording. But anyways, yeah. So hopefully this one gets more than, as you previously mentioned, this 5 views or however poorly it was, or poor. I still can't talk. However bad it was, and maybe we'll be around for week 5.
Yeah.
You never know. Never know. See you then.